Hello, I'm Sean of the Lore Hunter, and I'm here today talking about Mortal Shell, which just had a new trailer and looks like a gameplay interview discussed at the IGN Summer of Games Expo. And so this is the announcement trailer playing right now. What I'm doing now is I haven't seen the new trailer or the interview yet. It was playing while I was at work, but I wanted to give my sort of reactions and first impressions to those things and just quickly give a little background before looking at it, because if you follow my channel you might be like, oh well, you don't typically do this sort of immediate analysis or impressions or reactions, but I wanted to try something new with this. I'm looking forward to Mortal Shell quite a bit. It seems interesting, and I want to sort of go into it as someone who's been following the game and sort of give that perspective of what I've seen of it. So just some very quick stuff what we know about Mortal Shell before this trailer wraps up, which is going to be pretty soon. But basically, what we know about Mortal Shell, it's made by a small studio. It went from 2 people back in 2017 under a different name, Dungeon Haven, to now being Mortal Shell with a team of 15 in 2020. So that's where we're at as far as that goes. I'll pause this here. It's a Souls inspired action RPG. And as narratively, let's see. There's a dark father. There's some stuff about some sacred glands, and sort of it seems like one of the narrative and gameplay conceits is that as you're playing through the game, you find these different shells of these fallen warriors, and it's sort of like Warframe, where Warframe you have these different suits, and you can sort of collect them and upgrade them and choose which one you want to play with. And it seems like that's kind of what Mortal Shell is doing. So it seems pretty interesting, and that's really all we know about it. We know it's kind of got a non-linear campaign. There's a marsh-infested lowlands, a gargantuan cathedral of obsidian rock, and an ancient frozen crypt in the crest of a mountain. But we don't really know much about the gameplay, so I'm excited to see that, the systems, and sort of see, like, is it stamina based? How much is it adhering to Dark Souls? What is it doing differently? So, yeah, I'm gonna watch these for the first time, and I'll probably pause it and give thoughts and try not to talk over it too much if this is how you're experiencing, but also just sort of giving my impressions and reactions as I'm seeing it. And I will be doing a Mortal Shell so far video, assuming it's not like shadow dropping today. I'll try and collect follow-up information from like following interviews, anything that happens in the next couple weeks. I'm going to sort of sit and watch, and then I'll release sort of in-depth Mortal Shell information video. So this is just sort of a first impressions. I'm going to turn the volume up here on this so we can hear it now. I just didn't want that playing background. All right, I'm excited. So I think this is the trailer first. So this is the announcement trailer that came out April 1st, and it should be rolling right into. Yes.
I do not deserve absolution. Yet still I seek it.
Nice.
You must find his name.
Alright. Have we seen him before? Okay. She wants our glands, they want our glands. Oh, it's going after those glands. Well, that's cool. Okay. There's a tiny guy and a big guy. Alright. Boy, what a game to come out and debate you when you're waiting for Elden Ring, right? All the shattering imagery. Jeez, it caught me real bad when we.
Mortal Shell
yes.
is an action RPG announced earlier this year.
Okay. Before we get into this interview with Damon Hatfield, IGN guy, talking with Cold Symmetry, I assume. He so yeah, I mean that was a short trail. I knew it was a minute based on just having downloaded the video, but yeah, it's more the same. I'm sort of the same imagery without the context. more cool looking stuff. I really well, let's go back there 1 second. Let's find gotta find, just gotta highlight. So actually right there like is interesting. I caught that a good spot. So, oh my god. Okay, this is horrible. Okay, so if you noticed, there was like a little explosion. It looks like he turns to stone for a second. That's something that's sort of featured in Dungeon Haven, and we've seen a few times, but it's just interesting to note. It looks like that's maybe like something the shells can do is turn to stone. Got little man, big man again. All right, but pretty cool. More stuff. Just interested to get information.
Mortal Shell is an action RPG announced earlier this year that has fans of a certain notoriously difficult game very excited. Right now I'm joined by the fine gentleman from developer Cold Symmetry. Guys, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey,
hey.
Great to see you.
Thanks for having us. Thank you for having us.
Yeah. This game looks awesome. People are really stoked about it. Let's start with the shells from the title. What are these shells?
The shells are the play.
Okay, we'll find out what the shells are. First of all, Cryptomartyrs. That's Dark Souls as hell sounding name. So it looks like we got, this is very, health, stamina. This is what it's looking like there. Don't know what this is. Don't know what that is. Okay.
Characters in the game.
I'm gonna be
through in
I want to interrupt him. I'm gonna be pausing intermittently. It's kind of how I absorb things. So just pausing, taking note of things, just trying to figure out what I'm being shown.
Inhabiting them, you learn more about who they were. You get in touch with their abilities, but first you must learn their names.
Okay, indeed, and what you see on the screen is Harris, which is one of the...
Not all places are as friendly as Falgrim. So it seems like it's got a little bit of humor, which is good. Because, if we're going to have something be like so... Like sort of like Dark Souls is a very dark game, but it's also funny. And you definitely need that sort of comedy. So I appreciate seeing not... This place isn't so as friendly as Falgrim. Alright, so this is one of the shells. This is some lady who I'm missing what they're saying because I can't stop talking.
Okay, indeed, so... and what you see on the screen is Harris, which is one of the first shells you actually acquire, and yeah, just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, and
No, go ahead.
Their abilities, they're really each of their abilities are tied in with their storyline. So you might have someone who was an executioner and someone who was a poisoner, and so you'll get to as you get to know who they were when you unlock their storyline. You see here that we're learning who this shell was, what their name was, and each time you unlock a little bit more about their history, you acquire one of their abilities as well.
So let's see here. All right.
So,
the brigands pointed us toward the temple. Shunned by the devout, their allegiances lie with those who offer tar or spirits. They entertain themselves with drunken antics or violent cruelties. They know better than to attack us, but they follow us at a distance, hoping for scraps. Alright, so, just a little bit of lore. You get a little bit of lore. I guess you commit tar. I think that's what was down here on the screen, was, looks like some tar to this sort of, you got your maiden stand-in. It seems like, possibly. So the brigands point us toward the temple, shunned by the devout. So another thing is, so there's this Dark Father, there's this sacred gland crap, and something, everybody wants these glands, I guess. You're going to find these glands. There's these other people who want these glands for their gods. So there's all these cultists, I guess. So, okay, let's continue.
How many shells are there, or do you even know yet? And it sounds like they were going to be providing different types of play styles.
There are 4 unique mortal shells that you can discover if you can find them.
So four shells is less than I was expecting, just based on I am perhaps unfairly, and especially being a small team, comparing to Warframe where there's a lot of frames that you have to choose from. So four shells definitely is a little different than what I was expecting, but maybe that means they're more archetypal classes and they have more significant differences from each other. But I do wonder, where you find them in the game, because you hate to get a shell like near the end of the game. But I'm assuming if there's broken up into archetypes, you probably find them near the beginning. I wonder, maybe even you just choose from one.
Indeed, yeah, and indeed they do provide different play styles, and as a matter of fact, each shell might even kind of feel like a different game depending on if you really fully utilize their combat potential, right? Like one shell, for example, when it comes to dodges and rolls, can only roll a certain way. Another
So
shell.
I'm not gonna like pick out all of these here. I'll save that for like the so far video with a more in-depth look. But all of Harris's abilities have something to do with hardening, which might be the turning to stone thing, which kind of seems like it's like a block mechanic. So it looks like maybe they have to do with being defensive.
Can only execute a dodge in a certain way. And as Andrew already mentioned, as you discover the abilities, and as you learn more about their past in terms of their lore and history, you will also see how each of those abilities really tied in together and in the one specific theme that one shall represent. And the more
Okay, so sorry, lore hunter here. Gotta read my freaking lore. They were a pathetic lot, squandering their time to drink moonshine and fight over scraps. An offering of a bag of tar garnered me their quick attention, but I sensed betrayal in their eyes. I knocked one down, and the other told me all he knew. As I turned to walk away, one struck my armor with a rock. Were they mad? I could just as soon cut them down as take a piss. I looked into their hungry eyes and warned them as much. So that's cool. It's like giving, as they said, it's giving this recollection of this fallen soldier. So there's a little more character than maybe I was thinking, a little more like story to each one, which is kind of a cool thing. You're sort of an archaeologist looking back at sort of what happened to them.
you uncover, the more you learn what their strong side really is.
So you mentioned if you can find all these shells, are they sort of doled out throughout the entirety of the game, or is it possible to get all 4 of them near the beginning of the game so you can use them throughout the entire game?
They're hidden throughout the world. It is close to the beginning, so that you can so that you'll be able to kind of choose one which suits your play style the best fairly early on, but you will have to kind of scour that initial area for them.
Gotcha.
I wonder if you could play
now
with
in the
multiple
announcement
shells.
trailer that was released earlier this year, it looks like there was a scene where we saw the player get knocked out of a shell. Is that something that can happen during combat?
Yeah, that's what happens when your HP reaches 0. You get knocked out of your shell. You're put into this more vulnerable state. It can kind of have tactical advantages, but the big disadvantage is that you only have 1 HP when you're in that state. So you have to be super careful. Yeah, you can get back into the shell a limited number of times, but yeah, you've got to really manage your HP, manage your stamina, and kind of explore all the tactics there.
But if you're really hardcore, you can actually even like play through the game without any shells at all. Like if you really want a challenge. So
wow, okay. Playthrough no shell run is a thing. I'm sure. Look forward to Lobos running through the game. One thing about just the combat, just seeing it right there, is it seems pretty weighty, pretty hefty. Obviously, it's like a big weapon, but I was looking at how many swings you could sort of get. It looked like 3 or 4. So it's not. It's definitely in that sort of. It seems like that Dark Souls realm. You're not going to be spamming that button. It didn't seem like that would do very much for you. So yeah, your health, take a few hits. Didn't seem terribly punishing. I'm not sure what these are. This might be. I kind of wonder if they're talking about you have your shell. If this has like a Sekiro type thing where maybe these are the charges and you can only sort of have your HP bar deplete so many times before getting back in.
it's always an option.
Yeah, in fact, there's like
there's
a
a-
secret spot that we hope one of those more hardcore players who really want the challenge to find, where you like sort of officially within the game's lore, obviously, you renounce the bonding with all the shells. It even changes your skin, and it kind of like, all right, it's on now. You're gonna live in the age, baby.
Well, these types of games definitely have those hardcore players that are looking for a challenge. So that'll really be fun watching people try to do like a no shell playthrough.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah.
So you're being upfront that this is a Souls-like game. What made you decide to make this kind of game?
I mean, I guess for us, it was never even a question what type of game we want to do, because we all are fans of these games. We enjoy playing them. We love the meaning and the philosophy that they have inside. So we just wanted to do something that we would play ourselves, and hopefully other people will enjoy too.
I mean, the first time I went over to Vitaly's house, he had this LED screen on his fridge that was, I'm going there, which was rotating the armor sets, rotating the armor sets from Dark Souls 3. Like it was pictures of his pets or his kids or something, you know? And then right after that, we had a 2.5-hour conversation about debating the merits of nihilism.
All right. As you do. Let's see. Inscription. The first martyr gave neither blood nor body. No, he gave up so much more to preserve our faith. He gave his living memory, all that he knew, all that he glimpsed, sealed within ice. As it thaws, open your mouth and harden your heart. Receive his gift. Remember what came before. I wonder what came before. Yeah, so open your mouth and harden your heart. It's gonna have to keep that one in my pocket. There we go. So, all right, little lore.
Oh wow.
Yeah, very, very true. I have to admit, I had a face like that, and I guess like the first experience of playing a Dark Souls game was really, in a way, like a life changing for me. Not just because like those are fun games, but really the sense of like the overcoming sort of your internal struggle, the journey that you go through, and how sort of like character strengthening those experiences are. So in a way, what really happened for us also as a studio, we really bonded also, and over this shared passion,
like
and we became real life friends as
bars.
Well. And everybody finds something their own on those kind of games, and now it's a genre that is here to stay, and we thought we have something to say in this realm as well. And we really think this is those kind of genre just more than
thing
just
is
the game.
on his
Really
hip turns red sometimes.
So which of the Souls games were the biggest inspiration for you?
I would say it's probably different for each and every of us. Like we have a broad selections of games we like in Souls-like genre, but like for me personally, I really love the really old one called Blade of Darkness. It's maybe like 20 years old or even more. But it looks like the game you start with when you first try Souls-like is your favorite normally for people, at least among us. So yeah,
it's like the Souls before Souls, right?
Sure.
Yeah, like before the term was even coined, right? Like the first original Souls-like. And I think for some of us, I think Dmitry, did you set what other games you said like even before the Dark Souls?
Yeah, we were passionate for dark fantasy art style games, different melee
Saw
combat
this guy in
games,
the
like,
announcement trailer.
Yeah, Blades of Darkness for sure, and it was even Golden Axe and Quake 1. It's not a melee combat, but it's still a good. It's a pretty deep mood and style. So
healed a bunch of health.
Really inspired of that games.
Yeah, and like I like I mentioned Quake because like it's clearly not a Souls-like, but some of the ideas in terms of the atmosphere and like the world being elements, in terms of like the brutal atmosphere, what it brings to, it definitely was an inspiration. Another thing was probably worth mentioning when it kind of going back to sort of why we decided is also that there's some elements in the original Souls-like, like the first Dark Souls and Demon Souls that we really like, that they're kind of like not really being sort of left forgotten today when it comes to like level design and some of the other elements that we thought it'd be really cool to take those ideas and evolve them into something new, something that we were passionate about.
So it looks like this is some sort of combat meter. I think it kept filling up when he was scoring hits, but it seems to be draining now out of combat.
And felt confident that we can evolve on that formula and bring something new to the table.
So tell us about the world of Mortal Shell. What is this place? What happened here? And what is the player trying to accomplish?
Well, what exactly happened and what the players tried to accomplish, we're gonna try not to spoil things just yet. Sure. But generally, we can say that the player's gonna find themselves in this world that was tarnished and by this influence of the so-called, like, well, we call it internally, we're like, in a funny way referring to the juice, is this substance that has almost like magical kind of like abilities that is created and produced within the sacred glands of this godlike creature they revered, the sacred nectar. And this sacred nectar is pretty much the sort of the root of all conflict in the world, is the main currency that the player is going to use to, to fully develop the combat abilities of their shell. But it's also what other players, other NPCs and enemies also seek in the game.
So you're trying to
But
get
in general,
juice from
like
glands.
speaking, if we baseline it,
Familiarity.
the in the game, everybody is basically searching for a meaning, and not only you as a player, but also like other NPCs or other like creatures that populate the world. They're all in search for meaning, and some of them find it, some of them don't. But it's all about that, basically.
What can you tell us about this enemy that we're seeing in combat right here?
Well, in general, when it comes to enemies, we try to approach it in a way where every enemy has something about them, something special about them, and one kind of important kind of a pillar design hook idea, right? And also, obviously, has to be integrated in the level within. Like maybe about this particular fella, who's quite mean, and maybe
So
Dmitry can tell us more about
when
this guy.
he got back in his shell.
Oh yeah, it was fun to make a design for this one. We have a few different versions before we hit the style, but the main idea that we had in mind is like we want to create something a wild, crazy beast, something like a huge, hungry bear on steroids. So for reference, we use it for reference and inspiration.
So it does seem to be a
Young
relatively.
Mike Tyson.
I would put it definitely more on the Dark Souls
Yeah, because like it's
spectrum
rare when you see a very
for
well
speed
balanced
versus like
combination of
Bloodborne
both
or
power, like
Sekiro,
raw power,
versus,
and,
something
and
that's
speed.
faster paced,
And it's hard to get those things right. And
relatively intentional.
Like maybe
not
Enrique
dodge
can talk
spamming.
more about the animation side of things and combat there for this guy.
Yeah, because that was like part of the creation of the creatures too. Like we
cool boss
really
design.
we don't have any motion
Saw it
capture
in the
animation
announcement
game,
trailer, I
so
believe.
everything is keyframed, and we were trying to really focus and put like exaggerations and accents in the right moment to make the combat flow in the right way. And same not only for enemies but for player too. So it fits together by the end like Lego pieces. But like we've been tweaking timings a lot, like frame by frame, to make sure it works.
So how big and how open is this world?
Weapon seemed to
The
transform.
world
and do
is,
something.
I mean, taking the studio size, we knew from the start that like we have to focus on the quality rather than the quantity. So we can call it a fairly compact experience, but when I say compact, I still mean it's like deep enough to get lost in, and it's interesting enough to get lost in. And we have a lot of storytelling elements and pieces throughout the world, a lot of interesting places to explore where you can find some bits of story that like after that you can connect the dot together and figure out what exactly is happening in the area that you're in.
And the entire experience takes around 20 hours. I think that we tried to keep every moment meaningful. Like we're not going to send you around on quests trying to farm rats, right? Like we want
we're not
we don't even
game.
really we don't really even tell you what to do. It's kind of up to you. And there's a lot to explore. Vitaly mentioned the roots of like earlier Souls titles like Dark Souls 1, where we don't give you fast travel right away, right? So you've definitely got no mini map, so you're having to constantly memorize where you are in the environment, and
Nice.
as a result, you get to know it super.
Although, just as a slight aside, at least from what we saw, I think it's that crypt in the side of a mountain potentially, but we didn't see any shortcuts unlock. I assume that it's different, but it seemed to be mostly a series of hallways to that boss. But they may have just been showing that for the clip, so I can't really hold that as a judgment of the level design.
Well,
That's right.
And like
when it
the
comes
structure.
to, go ahead. Yeah.
I mean, I just want to say that the structure, like the way we build it, is like we have one big open area, and then the levels that connect to it, and you can choose where to go in any order. It doesn't matter, but we try to make it in a way that it always feels like an adventure, like a journey, where you have to commit before you go somewhere in some new area. It might be tricky for you, like you might find it difficult, so you might want to get back and like rebalance, like maybe choose another shell, pick another weapon, and
nice.
try with that. But we try to make it look like every time you decide to go somewhere, it's a commitment and it's a adventure and journey that you have to experience yourself.
You're probably going to suffer. You know, you you're going to have the fortitude to overcome like that lost feeling that you have in the beginning. But I think once you do, you're going to feel really good about not just about the game but about yourself too. And I think that we all have gone through kind of similar metamorphosis through playing similar titles that we felt like, you know, they were really meaningful to us personally.
Right.
Now, getting back to the announcement trailer from a few weeks ago, did the voiceover guy in the announcement trailer actually say, what is it? Bring the glands back to me? The glands?
Yes.
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 What's that all about?
The sacred glands, Vitaly mentioned them earlier. You know, they're really critical to the plot of Mortal Shell, what you're doing in the world. You know, where there are forces fighting over these things. You know, I kind of get into spoilers here, so you're going to have to dig in and find out for yourselves.
All right. Who was the woman in the mask?
That's Sester Janessa. She introduces you to the substance tar, the sacred nectar. She offers you the juice to drink, and that juice is what helps you.
That's the face of someone who I feel like, I'm sure he said it out loud, but the juice to drink from the sacred glands, something about tar. I mean, I enjoy the derpiness and how dorky it sounds. So I'm not strictly, I am making fun of it, but I'm also intrigued.
You bond with your shell, kind of get to know them better, unlock their abilities. You know, like I mentioned earlier, all the shell's abilities are tied in with their stories. So I think that's something that we do that's pretty cool.
So what's the current release plan for Mortal Shell? Do you have a release window that you're targeting?
So we've announced Q3. There'll be more info coming on that soon.
Okay.
Yeah, we're excited to share that with you when it's time.
Well, you guys, Mortal Shell is looking awesome. I know our audience is super excited for it. Before we go, real quick, I believe you have a special announcement for the fans that you can make.
Yeah, we'll be starting the beta on July 3rd, and you'll be playing the Crypt of Martyrs. Come and join us in the Discord and see what it's all about.
Cool.
Very cool.
Yep.
What platform will the beta be on?
PS4.
It'll be on PC.
Shit.
Excellent. Cool. Guys, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, well.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Thank you
having
for
us.
having us.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Before we go, let's take one more look at that kick-ass new trailer for Mortal Shell.
All right. Floating out of
I
coffin.
do not deserve absolution. Yet still, I
That's cool,
seek
this
it.
stuff. I like that.
You must find his name.
Seems like you really get some cool abilities. Coming after those glands. Ice sword thing looks awesome. Different shell. Little man, big man. It's not Ornstein and Smo, it's Ornstein Smo. Alright. And cool. So there we go. That is Mortal Shell, and my initial impressions are you know, here, I'll turn this down. And yeah, so my initial impressions are that it seems pretty cool. You know, I'm always debating about these gameplay trailers because, you know, they'll mess with the UI elements, and this was pretty straight gameplay. So I really thought this was pretty effective to give an idea. You know, the combat seemed pretty weighty. I don't know if the final release will have health bars and stuff. I couldn't really gauge that for the enemies. I didn't quite know everything that was happening. It looked like you could block to like harden yourself as the abilities did. So, and that's just one shell. So I'll be curious to see what sort of variety there are with different shells. But it seems like there's a fair number of things happening. So it looks pretty interesting, and the lore so far, you know, it's evocative. You know, I as I said, I appreciate how dorky it is that you're trying to go after some like nectar from some glands of a god. That works on me. So yeah, I mean those are my basic impressions. So I'm assuming there'll be some follow-up interviews or other events coming out in the next couple weeks. I'm gonna, sit on those and collect information, and so stay tuned for Mortal Shell so far, and I will be providing all the info, and then there'll be the beta coming up July 3rd, and they still seem to indicate it would be coming out Q3, so I'm looking forward to getting a release date on that pretty soon. But yeah, so thanks for tuning in with me on this, and see you later. Thanks for watching.